As winter's cold breath settles over the world and the longest night of the year approaches, there's a sense of stillness in the air, a stillness that seems to call for reflection, for memories, and for warmth. For many, this time of year is synonymous with celebration, but beneath the twinkling lights and the bright red ribbons lies a deeper, quieter story, a story rooted in ancient traditions and old myths. These stories are the foundations upon which our modern Christmas is built, blending history, legend, and spirituality into the season we know today. This journey will take us into the heart of some of the most cherished and enduring figures associated with Christmas: St. Nicholas, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost. As we drift into these stories, we'll explore not just their origins, but also the subtle transformations they've undergone, shaping and reshaping over the centuries. The myths and legends surrounding these figures have evolved in fascinating ways, each one carrying echoes of ancient customs and beliefs. These tales, in all their forms, continue to capture our imaginations and offer a sense of comfort and joy, reminding us of a time before the rush of modern life, when the world was quieter and people gathered around fires to share stories of magic and wonder. To begin, let's think about the time of year itself. The winter solstice, a moment of profound significance in ancient cultures. It marks the longest night and the gradual return of light. It was a time when people would have huddled together for warmth, offering sacrifices and sharing feasts in hopes that the sun would rise again. These rituals were not just about survival, but about connection, connecting with each other and with the deeper forces of nature that govern their lives. In many ways, these ancient celebrations were the forerunners to the Christmas traditions we celebrate today. The solstice rituals were imbued with symbolism, centered on the themes of light, rebirth, and renewal. As we trace the paths of St. Nicholas, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost, we'll see how their stories emerge from a variety of sources, each one deeply connected to the cycle of nature, the changing of seasons, and the moral lessons that have been passed down through generations. These figures are more than just characters in a holiday tale. They represent the duality of the winter season, the nurturing and the harsh, the light and the dark. The gentle, gift-giving spirit of St. Nicholas contrasts sharply with the dark, mischievous Krampus, while mysterious Grandfather Frost embodies both the chill of winter and the warmth of family and tradition. As we delve into the life of St. Nicholas, we'll begin with his historical roots, a real man who lived over 1,000 years ago, in a time when the world was a much different place. St. Nicholas, known for his acts of charity, was a bishop in the early Christian church. His kindness to the poor and his habit of secretly giving gifts to children made him a beloved figure in the regions he served. Over the centuries, the real St. Nicholas transformed into the jolly, red-suited Santa Claus that many of us know today. But this transformation didn't happen overnight. It was shaped by layers of folklore, art, and popular culture, each adding its own color and dimension to the character we now associate with Christmas. This evolution will remind us of the fluid nature of mythology, how myths are not static, but living, breathing entities that change as the cultures around them evolve. But St. Nicholas's story is not the only one that captures the essence of Christmas. There is a darker, yet equally fascinating figure, Krampus. While Santa Claus rewards good children with gifts, Krampus is a punisher, a creature who, according to European folklore, arrives with chains and switches to punish those who have misbehaved. Krampus represents the shadow side of Christmas, reminding us of the balance between reward and punishment, light and dark. His terrifying image, horned with sharp teeth and a fearsome demeanor, stands in stark contrast to the warm and inviting Santa Claus. And yet, Krampus too has become a beloved figure in modern culture, with festivals celebrating his legend, even though his roots are grounded in much older, much darker traditions. Krampus's story reminds us that every celebration has its flip side, and sometimes there is value in embracing the fear as well as the joy. Then, there is Grandfather Frost, Dead Moros, whose story takes us into the frozen heart of Russia. Unlike Santa Claus, who has become a figure primarily associated with Christmas Day, Grandfather Frost plays a more central role in New Year's celebrations. A figure of both warmth and winter's chill, Dead Moros embodies the spirit of winter itself. He is often depicted as an old man with a long white beard, wearing a blue or silver robe, and carrying a staff. While he shares similarities with Santa Claus, his origins are uniquely tied to Russian traditions. deeply entwined with the celebration of the changing seasons and the arrival of a new year. Grandfather Frost is a figure who guides us through the dark, cold nights of winter, offering not just gifts but also the promise of a fresh start as the new year begins. His story, steeped in Russian folklore, provides a bridge between the ancient traditions of the East and the more familiar Christmas customs of the West. As we navigate through these stories, we'll see how these characters, each in their own way, embody the hopes and fears of winter. From St. Nicholas's unwavering generosity to Krampus's chilling punishment and Grandfather Frost's serene yet mysterious presence, these figures offer us more than just holiday cheer. They reflect our own human struggles, our need for balance, and our desire to find light in the darkness. The myths surrounding them are not just tales told around the hearth. They are windows into the heart of winter, into the soul of the season that has always held a deep, almost sacred place in human history. This journey is an invitation to slow down and reflect, to immerse ourselves in the quiet, timeless rhythms of Christmas myths. It is a reminder that the holiday season is not just about decorations or presents. It is about the deeper stories that connect us to the past, to nature, and to each other. As we step into the shadows and the light, the joy and the fear of these ancient myths, let us do so with a sense of peace and wonder, ready to discover the magic that lies beneath the surface of the season. As we begin our journey into the mythical origins of Christmas, we must first step back in time, to an era when the world was governed by nature's rhythms. Before the glittering lights of modern-day celebrations, before the gift-giving, the feasts, and the merry songs, there was the winter solstice, an ancient event that marked a turning point in the year. This event, which occurs on the longest night, has been a source of awe and reverence for civilizations across the globe for millennia. It was a moment when darkness enveloped the earth, and yet it held the promise of renewal of the sun's return. For those who lived before clocks and calendars, the solstice was a sacred marker, a symbol of hope, of life persevering through the coldest and darkest days. In many cultures, the winter solstice represented the triumph of light over darkness. The ancient peoples of Europe, the Middle East, and the Far East all looked to the skies at this time of year, gathering in communities to celebrate the rebirth of the sun. In the cold northern regions of Europe, the solstice was often met with bonfires and feasts, rituals meant to coax the sun back into the sky, assuring that winter would not claim the world entirely. These early celebrations were deeply rooted in the natural world, reflecting a sense of unity with the earth's cycles. The darkness of winter was acknowledged, but there was always a belief, the certainty, that it would eventually give way to the light. One of the most ancient of these solstice rituals was Yule, a festival celebrated by the Norse and Germanic peoples. For them, the winter solstice was a sacred moment, and the Yule log, a centerpiece of the celebration, symbolized the rebirth of the sun. People would gather around the hearth, light a massive log, and stay awake through the night, keeping vigil to ensure the return of warmth. The Yule log was no ordinary firewood. It was imbued with great significance. The ashes of the Yule log were believed to hold magical properties, and they were often saved and kept throughout the year, believed to bring protection and good fortune. The Yule celebration was a time of communal bonding, of shared stories and shared warmth, as families and communities huddled together, awaiting the return of the light. In Rome, the winter solstice was marked by the festival of Saturnalia, which honored the god Saturn, the deity of agriculture and liberation. Saturnalia was a time of revelry, a time when the usual social order was turned upside down. Masters and slaves would exchange roles, and there was a spirit of revelry that permeated the streets. There were feasts, dances, and gift-giving, all in honor of the god who was believed to bring abundance and renewal to the earth. The Saturnalia festival, while not directly tied to Christmas as we know it today, laid the groundwork for many of the festive traditions we associate with the holiday season. The spirit of generosity, of feasting and giving, can be traced back to Saturnalia, influencing the way that Christmas became a time of shared joy and communal warmth. In many cultures, the winter solstice was also a time for honoring ancestors and the spirits of the dead. The long nights were seen as a time when the veil between the world was thinnest, and people would gather to honor those who had passed, lighting candles and offering prayers to ensure that the spirits would find peace and that the living would be protected through the coming year. This connection between the living and the dead at the time of the solstice would influence the later traditions of Christmas, when candles and lights are used to symbolize both the warmth of the season and the connection to the past. These ancient solstice celebrations were often infused with myths and stories about gods and spirits who represented the forces of nature. One such figure was the Norse god Yule, often depicted as a mighty, bearded man who rode through the sky in a chariot drawn by goats, bringing gifts and blessings to the people. This figure, with his association with winter and the promise of a better season to come, bears striking similarities to the later figure of Santa Claus. Yule's journey across the sky, delivering blessings, would eventually be woven into the mythic tapestry that gave rise to St. Nicholas, who, in later centuries, would be celebrated as the benevolent figure of Christmas gift-giving. In the Germanic and Nordic traditions, there was also the figure of the Wild Hunt, an eerie procession of spirits and gods who would ride through the skies, bringing both fear and protection. Some versions of the Wild Hunt included the god Odin, who, with his long beard and wide-brimmed hat, roamed the earth with his followers, a figure who would later influence the image of Santa Claus. These ancient winter figures were often depicted as old men, wise and powerful, who ruled over the winter months, watching over people and protecting them through the darkest times. The winter solstice was not just about waiting for the sun to return. It was also about celebrating the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is hope for renewal, for growth, and for warmth. This theme of light returning after darkness is deeply embedded in the myths and traditions that would eventually give rise to Christmas. The idea of a benevolent figure bringing gifts during the cold winter months, whether it be Yule, Saturn, or other figures, is a reflection of humanity's deep connection to the cycles of nature and the need for symbols of hope during the darkest times of the year. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, it adapted many of these ancient solstice traditions, transforming them into the celebrations of Christmas that we know today. The date of Christmas itself was chosen to coincide with the winter solstice, aligning the birth of Christ with the rebirth of the sun. In doing so, the Church created a celebration that bridged the gap between the old pagan rituals and the new Christian faith. The tree, the lights, the feasts, and even the idea of gift-giving all find their roots in these ancient solstice celebrations. The winter solstice remains, even today, a symbol of hope and renewal. In the darkest days of the year, when the nights are longest and the world feels at its coldest, there is still the promise of light to come. The ancient solstice festivals were celebrations of endurance, of community, and of the belief that no matter how harsh the winter, there is always a return of spring, the return of warmth. These traditions and beliefs have persisted across time and cultures, weaving their way into the fabric of Christmas, a holiday that still carries with the spirit of the solstice, a time to gather, to celebrate, and to wait for the light to return. The story of St. Nicholas is one that has echoed through centuries, his legacy woven into the fabric of Christmas. But beyond the jolly figure we recognize today, there is a much deeper, quieter history, one that speaks of kindness, humility, and a deep sense of compassion for the less fortunate. St. Nicholas was not born as the plump, red-suited gift-bringer we know today, but as a man of humble beginnings in the small town of Myra, in what is now Turkey, during the 3rd century. He was a bishop, a religious leader who was known for his piety, but it was his acts of generosity that would eventually cement his place in the hearts of people across the world. His story begins with a gift, the gift of life, for he was born to wealthy parents who cherished him deeply. Tragically, they died when he was still a young man, leaving him an orphan with great wealth. But instead of using this fortune for selfish gain, St. Nicholas chose to give it away. He was known for his secret acts of charity, often helping those in need, without them ever knowing who their benefactor was. One of the most famous tales tells of a poor man with 3 daughters. This man had no dowry to offer, and without a dowry, his daughters had little hope of marriage. It is said that St. Nicholas, upon learning of this plight, secretly threw bags of gold coins to the man's window, ensuring that his daughters could be married. These acts of kindness would become the cornerstone of his legend, acts performed not for recognition, but out of a deep sense of love and duty toward others. These secret gifts, often left at night or in the dead of winter, gave rise to the legend of St. Nicholas as the patron saint of children and the poor. The mysterious nature of his generosity added to the allure of his story. People in the town of Myra would come to revere him not only for his role as a bishop, but for his profound compassion. He didn't just give material gifts. He gave hope. He gave people the assurance that even in the darkest times, there was someone watching over them, someone who cared. Over time, this image of St. Nicholas as a giver of gifts, especially children, became central to the holiday traditions we associate with Christmas today. But St. Nicholas's story is not just about kindness. It is also about justice and a fierce protection of the vulnerable. He was not one to shy away from standing up for what he believed was right, even in the face of great opposition. One well-known story about him involves his intervention in the case of 3 innocent men who were wrongfully imprisoned. St. Nicholas is said to have appeared before the emperor and demanded that the men be released, arguing that their imprisonment was unjust. His boldness in standing up for the innocent and the oppressed became another defining aspect of his character. He was not just a figure of charity, but a defender of justice, a protector of the weak, an advocate for the powerless. As the centuries passed, the legend of St. Nicholas spread beyond the borders of Myra. His story was carried along trade routes and through the mouths of travelers, passed down through generations, evolving as it went. The figure of St. Nicholas became synonymous with the spirit of giving, and his image began to take on many forms as different cultures embraced his story. In the Netherlands, for example, he became known as Santa Claus, a figure who arrived on December 5th to bring gifts to children. The Dutch settlers brought Santa Claus to America in the 18th century, where he began to merge with other Christmas traditions, eventually becoming the Santa Claus we know today. The transformation of St. Nicholas into Santa Claus was not a single moment, but a gradual process that took place over several centuries. In the early 19th century, a poem called A Visit from St. Nicholas, more commonly known as A Night Before Christmas, solidified many of the characteristics we now associate with Santa Claus. In this poem, Santa is described as a jolly, round man with a sleigh pulled by reindeer, a far cry from the more solemn, bishop-like figure that St. Nicholas once was. But the essence of St. Nicholas remained: the spirit of generosity, the joy of giving, and the love for children and the vulnerable. One key figure in the creation of Santa Claus, as we know him today, was the 19th century artist Thomas Nast. Nast's illustrations in the magazines of the time further shaped the public's image of Santa, turning him into a larger-than-life figure who could slide down chimneys and deliver gifts to all the good boys and girls around the world. Nast's Santa was not just a gift-bringer. He became a symbol of the holiday season itself, a symbol of warmth, of family, and of joy. Through it all, the heart of St. Nicholas's story remained unchanged. Whether as Santa Claus in the Netherlands, as Santa Claus in America, or as a more solemn bishop in other parts of the world, St. Nicholas embodied the virtues of kindness, charity, and selflessness. His story speaks to a universal truth, that the greatest gifts are often not those that can be wrapped in paper or tied with bows, but those that come from the heart. The gift of love, the gift of hope, and the gift of compassion are the true essence of Christmas. As we reflect on the legend of St. Nicholas, we see that his story is not just a fairy tale for children, but a reminder for all of us to live with generosity and care for others. His acts of kindness were not grand or showy, but quiet and humble. They remind us that the most meaningful gifts we can give are those that are given without expectation, given because we see the need in others and want to make their lives a little bit brighter. Even today, the legacy of St. Nicholas lives on in the heart of Christmas. His spirit can be felt in the act of giving gifts, in the joy we find in surprising loved ones with thoughtful presents, and the way we gather together to celebrate the warmth of family and friendship. St. Nicholas, the Bishop of Generosity, may no longer be a living figure, but his story continues to inspire us, reminding us that the true meaning of Christmas lies not in what we receive, but in what we give others. The journey of St. Nicholas from a 4th century bishop in Myra to the modern-day figure of Santa Claus is a tale woven with layers of history, culture, and transformation. What began as the story of a humble man devoted to charity slowly evolved into one of the most recognizable symbols of Christmas across the world. To understand how this metamorphosis occurred, we must trace the many cultural threads that shaped and reshaped his image over time, merging his benevolent nature with the changing customs and traditions of different peoples. The story of St. Nicholas's evolution begins in the centuries following his death. His acts of kindness had already earned him a reputation as a patron saint, particularly in the Eastern Orthodox and Catholic churches. He became known for his generosity to the poor and his protection of children. His feast day, celebrated on December 6th, became a time for giving, particularly to children. It was common for children to place their shoes or stockings out, hoping for gifts from the saint. This early tradition of gift-giving laid the groundwork for what would become one of the most beloved aspects of Christmas, its emphasis on presents. As Christianity spread throughout Europe, so too did the legend of Saint Nicholas. By the time the figure of Saint Nicholas reached the shores of the Netherlands, a transformation had already begun. In Dutch tradition, Saint Nicholas was known as Santa Claus, a figure who was largely similar to the original Saint Nicholas in spirit, but with some distinct differences. Santa Claus was depicted as an elderly man with a long white beard, dressed in a red bishop's robe, and carrying a crozier. He still retained his image as a benevolent gift-bringer, visiting children on the eve of his feast day to reward good behavior with sweets and small presents. The traditions surrounding Santa Claus were rich with rituals, parades, songs, and a festive atmosphere that captured the spirit of Christmas. However, as the Dutch settlers moved to the New World in the 18th century, they brought their traditions with them, including the figure of Santa Claus. It was here in the developing United States that Santa Claus would undergo a further transformation. The early American colonies, particularly in New York, had a significant Dutch influence. By the early 19th century, this Dutch version of St. Nicholas began to be integrated into the broader tapestry of American holiday traditions. The idea of a jolly, gift-bringing figure began to take hold, but was still a far cry from the Santa Claus we know today. It was in 1823 that the transformation truly began to crystallize with the publication of the now famous poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, also known as The Night Before Christmas. The poem, written by Clement Clarke Moore, introduced many of the iconic characteristics of modern Santa Claus. The image of St. Nicholas in the poem was not that of a solemn bishop, but a rotund, jolly man, chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, who arrives in a sleigh pulled by reindeer. This version of St. Nicholas was less formal, more playful, and his arrival on Christmas Eve became a central part of the celebration. The poem also introduced the now famous line, "Now, dash away, dash away, dash away all," which painted a picture of Santa's sleigh soaring through the night sky, delivering presents to all the good children of the world. This image of Santa as a magical figure, capable of flying through the night with the help of his reindeer, marked a significant departure from the more grounded, earthly St. Nicholas of earlier traditions. Santa was no longer just a kind bishop. He had become a figure of wonder, embodying the magic of the holiday season. Soon after the publication of Moore's poem, a series of illustrations by the artist Thomas Nast further solidified the image of Santa Claus as a jolly, larger-than-life figure. Nast, who had worked for Harper's Weekly, began to illustrate Santa as a cheerful, bearded man who wore a red suit trimmed with white fur. His depictions of Santa Claus, particularly in the 1860s and 1870s, became highly influential in shaping the public's perception of the holiday figure. Nast's Santa Claus was not just a gift-bringer, but a symbol of the festive spirit, joy, and generosity that came to define Christmas. His Santa, depicted in a variety of scenes, filling stockings, checking his list, delivering presents, became the visual representation of the holiday. Nast's illustrations of Santa Claus were so influential that they became the foundation for the image of Santa that we see today. By the early 20th century, the idea of Santa Claus had become fully entrenched in American holiday traditions, and his popularity spread to other parts of the world. In 1931, Coca-Cola commissioned an artist named Haddon Sundblom to create a series of holiday advertisements featuring Santa Claus. These advertisements, which ran annually through the 1960s, were crucial in cementing the image of Santa Claus as a cheerful, plump man with a white beard, red suit, and black boots. Sundblom's portrayal of Santa, sipping on a Coke while surrounded by festive trimmings, became an iconic image, one that we still associate with the Christmas season today. Yet, even as Santa Claus became more commercialized, the spirit of St. Nicholas remained at the heart of the holiday. Santa's generosity, his devotion to children, and his ability to bring joy to the world all stemmed from the same qualities that made St. Nicholas such a beloved figure in the early Christian world. The emphasis on giving, on spreading goodwill, and on creating moments of joy for others remains central to the spirit of Christmas, even as the figure of St. Nicholas was transformed into Santa Claus. In the 20th and 21st centuries, Santa Claus has continued to evolve, taking on new forms in various cultures and media. From movies to television specials, songs, advertisements, Santa has become a figure that transcends boundaries. In some places, he is seen as a symbol of childhood wonder, while in others, he embodies a spirit of generosity and community. His image has been shaped by the media, by commerce, and by the collective imagination of generations, making him one of the most enduring and beloved characters in holiday lore. Yet, despite the commercialization and modern iterations, the essence of Santa Claus remains tied to the heart of St. Nicholas, the gift bringer, the protector of children, and the symbol of generosity. The transformation of St. Nicholas into Santa Claus is not just a story of a historical figure evolving over time. It is a story of how myths grow, adapt, and remain relevant. As Christmas has changed throughout history, Santa Claus has remained a constant symbol of the season's core values: kindness, charity, and the joy of giving. In the end, the evolution of St. Nicholas into Santa Claus is a reminder that stories, like the traditions they inspire, are never static. They grow and shift, adapting to new times, new cultures, and new ways of understanding the world. But at their heart, they carry the same timeless messages, the messages of love, compassion, and the spirit of giving that define the holiday season. Whether as the ancient bishop, the Dutch Santa Claus, or the modern Santa Claus, the essence of St. Nicholas remains as bright and enduring as the holiday he helped to create. As we continue our journey through the rich tapestry of Christmas traditions, we now turn our attention to a vital chapter in the evolution of the beloved holiday figure, Santa Claus, the Dutch precursor to Santa Claus. To truly understand the Christmas figure as we know him today, it is essential to explore the influence of Santa Claus, whose story is deeply rooted in Dutch culture and tradition. While St. Nicholas's journey has already taken us across time and cultures, it is in the Netherlands where his transformation took on particularly significant forms, and it is here that many of the customs we associate with Christmas, especially gift-giving, were solidified. Santa Claus's origins can be traced back to the same Christian bishop, St. Nicholas, whose deeds of generosity and compassion would eventually inspire the modern Santa Claus. However, the Dutch version of St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, evolved with distinct cultural influences that set him apart from other depictions. In the Netherlands, Santa Claus was first introduced as a gift bringer to children in the Middle Ages, and over time, he became a beloved figure in the country's Christmas celebrations. The Dutch had a particular reverence for St. Nicholas, and his feast day on December 6th was one of the most important holidays in their calendar. It was on this day that children would place their shoes or stockings out in hopes of receiving gifts from the saint, a tradition that lives on today in the form of the modern-day Christmas stocking. The key elements of the Santa Claus tradition remain remarkably consistent throughout the centuries. Dressed in a tall, red mitre and a long robe, with white beard and a crozier in hand, Santa Claus's appearance mirrored the religious figure of St. Nicholas. However, Santa Claus's role in Dutch society was not confined to merely being a saintly figure. He became a central character in the celebrations leading up to Christmas. This festive season, known as Sinterklaasavond, St. Nicholas Eve, on December 5th, marked the climax of festivities, where families would gather to celebrate and exchange gifts. What made Santa Claus especially unique was his companion, a figure that is perhaps the most striking difference from other versions of St. Nicholas. This companion, named Zwarte Piet Black Pete, is the subject of much discussion today, but his origins are rooted in the early traditions of Dutch Christmas celebrations. Zwarte Piet was believed to assist Santa Claus in his gift-giving duties. According to Dutch folklore, Santa Claus would travel to the Netherlands from Spain on a steamboat in early November, accompanied by Zwarte Piet, who would help him deliver gifts to well-behaved children. Zwarte Piet's role in the tradition was both a helper and a figure who was responsible for punishing naughty children. While Santa Claus rewarded good children with toys and sweets, Zwarte Piet would sometimes playfully threaten to take them away if they had misbehaved. This duality of reward and punishment was part of the moral fabric that shaped the legend of Santa Claus, teaching children both the joy of giving and the consequences of their actions. The arrival of Santa Claus in the Netherlands was a highly anticipated event, one that included parades and festivals, and became a central part of Dutch Christmas customs. One of the most beloved aspects of the Santa Claus tradition was the arrival of the saint and his companion by boat. The Dutch children would eagerly wait for the day when Santa Claus, in his red bishop's robe, would arrive in the port cities of the Netherlands, bringing with him the promise of gifts and festivities. The day was filled with joy, music, and the magic of anticipation. Children would leave out their shoes, and in return, they would find small gifts, candy, or even letters from Santa Claus, written in rhyme, which added a layer of whimsy and fun to the experience. As we explore the influence of Santa Claus on Christmas, we must consider how Dutch settlers brought their traditions to the New World. In the 17th century, when the Dutch established New Amsterdam, now New York, they carried their beloved Santa Claus traditions with them. This is where the figure of Santa Claus began to merge with other European customs, eventually evolving into the modern-day Santa Claus. The Dutch influence on the development of the Santa Claus myth is profound, as it was from the Dutch settlers that many of the traditions we now associate with Christmas in the United States were introduced. The custom of leaving shoes out for gifts, the idea of a magical gift-bringer visiting homes during the night, and the focus on children, all of these were carried over from the Dutch Santa Claus tradition. The transformation of Santa Claus into Santa Claus did not happen in isolation. As the centuries passed, Santa Claus merged with other figures from folklore and became influenced by American culture. But it is important to recognize that the roots of the modern Santa Claus lie firmly in the Dutch Santa Claus, and it is through this connection that many of the Christmas customs we know today were passed down. The tradition of gift-giving on Christmas Eve, the practice of hanging stockings by the fireplace, and the magical element of a figure who arrives on a sleigh, pulled by reindeer, all have their origins in the Santa Claus myth. One of the most important aspects of the Dutch tradition that made its way into American culture is the idea of Santa Claus as a figure of warmth and joy. In Dutch folklore, Santa Claus was not just a stern saint, but a figure who embodied the spirit of community, generosity, and family. The festivities surrounding Santa Claus were times of togetherness, of sharing meals, and celebrating the warmth of home. This aspect of the tradition was preserved as Santa Claus became Santa Claus, and became synonymous with the holiday season itself. The joy that children experienced as they awaited the arrival of Santa Claus was transformed into universal excitement of Christmas morning, when children wake up to discover gifts and feel the magic of the season. In the Netherlands, the Santa Claus celebration was also tied to a deep sense of community and giving. Families would gather to share meals, tell stories, and celebrate the importance of generosity. The custom of exchanging gifts was not just about receiving presents, but about celebrating the spirit of giving and the connections between people. The focus on kindness and the act of giving, rather than on receiving, became one of the cornerstones of the holiday season, shaping the way we now approach Christmas gift-giving. As we reflect on the Dutch influence on the Christmas tradition, we see that Santa Claus's legacy lives on not only in the figure of Santa Claus, but also in the customs, rituals, and values that have come to define the holiday season. The importance of family, the joy of giving, and the belief in the magic of the season are all deeply embedded in the traditions brought to America by Dutch settlers. And while the figure of Santa Claus has evolved into a more secular figure in many parts of the world, the essence of the tradition of kindness, generosity, and community remains at the heart of Christmas today. As we continue our exploration of Christmas myths, we now turn our attention to one of the more unsettling figures in the holiday lore, Krampus, the dark shadow that contrasts sharply with the jolly image of St. Nicholas and Santa Claus. While Street Nicholas is known for his generosity and kindness, Krampus embodies the darker, more menacing side of the holiday season. The myth of Krampus is one that has survived in various forms in parts of Europe, particularly in Austria, Germany, and Hungary, where he is believed to visit children during the Christmas season. But unlike Santa Claus, whose visits are filled with joy and gifts, Krampus's role in the holiday tradition is one of punishment and fear, a reminder of the consequences of bad behavior. Krampus's origins are shrouded in mystery, but many scholars believe his roots go back to pre-Christian Alpine traditions. He is often depicted as a half-goat, half-demon figure, with horns, sharp teeth, and a long, flickering tongue. His body is typically covered in dark, shaggy fur, and he carries chains and a bundle of birch sticks, which he uses to punish naughty children. The figure of Krampus is not merely a mythical monster, but an embodiment of the harshness of winter itself. Wild, untamed, and unforgiving, In many ways, Krampus reflects the ancient fear of the dark winter months, when food was scarce and the harsh conditions of the season made survival a daily struggle. Just as people turned to figures like St. Nicholas to bring them warmth and security, so too did they need a figure like Krampus to remind them of the dangers of neglecting the moral and social rules that kept their communities intact. Krampus's role in the Christmas tradition is often seen as a way to balance the festive cheer of St. Nicholas with a moral lesson about behavior. While Street Nicholas rewards children who have been good, Krampus is said to punish those who have been naughty. The nature of his punishment varies from region to region, but it typically involves frightening or even physically tormenting the misbehaving child. In some tales, Krampus is said to carry a sack or basket on his back, which he uses to capture particularly bad children and take them away to his lair, sometimes as a form of captivity or worse, depending on the version of the story. This duality of reward and punishment creates a sense of moral equilibrium during the holiday season. It is a reminder that good behavior is not only expected, but that there are consequences for wrongdoing. Even during the season of goodwill, the fearsome nature of Krampus, though unsettling, also served a practical purpose in the communities where the legend persisted. Parents would use the story of Krampus as a tool for disciplining their children, telling them that if they did not behave, Krampus would come for them. This figure, though often depicted in terrifying terms, was a reminder that the Christmas season was not just about receiving gifts and celebration, but also about the moral foundations that held society together. In many ways, Krampus acted as a kind of moral enforcer, ensuring that children understood the importance of being good not only out of fear of punishment, but out of a sense of personal responsibility and respect for their families and communities. As the centuries passed, Krampus continued to be a figure of both fear and fascination, with his image appearing in local parades and festivals. In parts of Europe, Krampus would accompany St. Nicholas during his visits to children, and on the night of December 5th, Krampusnacht, young men would dress up as Krampus and roam the streets, frightening children, and sometimes even engaging in playful antics. This tradition, though seemingly terrifying, was also a celebration of the end of the dark winter months, a way for communities to come together and mark the seasonal shift with a mix of fright and revelry. The Krampuslauf or Krampus Run is a popular event in many alpine towns, where people dress as Krampus run through the streets, terrifying onlookers in an eerie but festive display of ancient winter customs. Despite Krampus's long-standing place in European traditions, his popularity waned for much of the 20th century. As Christmas became increasingly commercialized and focused on the joy and cheer of Santa Claus, Krampus's dark, fearsome image was relegated to the margins. However, in recent years, there has been a resurgence of interest in Krampus, particularly in pop culture. Krampus has made appearances in films, television shows, and even holiday advertisements, where his once menacing image has been softened and, in some cases, turned into a more humorous or tongue-in-cheek version of a traditional figure. In some parts of the world, particularly in Germany and Austria, Krampus is still very much alive in the cultural consciousness. The Krampuslauf has become a tourist attraction, drawing crowds from around the world who are eager to witness this ancient ritual. The revival of Krampus has also sparked a wave of interest in the darker, more mysterious aspects of Christmas tradition, with people rediscovering the value of contrast in the holiday season. After all, it is the presence of Krampus, the embodiment of fear and consequence, that highlights the warmth and joy of figures like Street Nicholas and Santa Claus. Without the shadow of Krampus, the light of St. Nicholas would perhaps lose some of its luster. There is also something deeply symbolic about Krampus, particularly in the way he embodies the duality of the winter season. Winter, after all, is a time of both harshness and beauty. It is a season of darkness, but also one that promises a return of light. It is a time of rest and stillness, but also one of danger, when survival is a daily struggle. Krampus, in his wildness and fearsome power, represents this harsh side of winter, the side that demands respect, that reminds us of our vulnerability. He is a figure who speaks to our primal fears, our deep-seated understanding that nature can be cruel and unforgiving, but also a reminder that we must face those fears in order to find balance. Krampus, in his essence, challenges the idealized notion of Christmas as a time only for happiness and cheer. His presence forces us to confront the complexities of the season, the fear, the harshness, the consequences of our actions, while also highlighting the joy and warmth that come from overcoming those struggles. The holiday season, after all, is not just about celebrating the light, but also acknowledging the dark. And in the figure of Krampus, we find a reminder that the holiday season is about more than just receiving. It is also about moral reflection, the balancing of light and shadow, and the understanding that with joy comes responsibility. As we continue our journey through the rich tapestry of Christmas myths and legends, we find ourselves in the cold and snow-covered lands of Eastern Europe, where another figure, deeply tied to the winter season, has long been a part of holiday traditions: Grandfather Frost, or Dead Moros. Unlike the more familiar figures of St. Nicholas or Santa Claus, Grandfather Frost embodies the spirit of winter itself, a complex and multifaceted character who represents both the harshness of the season and the warmth of human resilience. His origins, like many mythical figures, are steeped in the traditions of ancient Slavic folklore, and his character has evolved over time, becoming an integral part of the Christmas and New Year celebrations in Russia and surrounding countries. Grandfather Frost, or Dead Moros, is often depicted as a tall, bearded man dressed in a long, fur-lined coat, with a staff in hand and a deep, powerful presence. He is a figure whose very image speaks to the strength and severity of winter, a man who controls the icy winds and the snowstorms that sweep across the Russian landscape. In the original tales, Dead Moros was not always a benevolent figure, and his character was closer to that of a frost spirit, who could bring misfortune to those who were unprepared for the cold. He was often portrayed as a figure who could freeze the rivers, bring bitter winds, and cause hardship for those who did not respect the forces of nature. However, over time, his role began to shift from a figure of fear to one of warmth and generosity, especially as the celebration of the New Year began to blend with traditional winter festivities. The transformation of Dead Moros into a gift-bringer, much like St. Nicholas or Santa Claus, can be traced back to the Russian celebration of New Year's, which, during the Soviet era, replaced Christmas as the primary holiday of the season. The Russian Orthodox Church, which once celebrated Christmas on January 7th, was suppressed during the Soviet period, and Christmas was no longer a state-sanctioned holiday. However, the Russian people still longed for a festive time during the winter months, and this void was filled by the figure of Dead Moros. As the Soviet Union promoted secular traditions and the celebration of the New Year, Dead Moros began to take on more of the qualities associated with gift-bringers in other cultures, including the giving of presents to children. In contrast to the Western image of Santa Claus, who travels with reindeer and arrives through chimneys, Dead Moros has his own unique way of delivering gifts. He is said to travel in a troika, a traditional Russian sleigh drawn by 3 horses, which speeds through the snow-covered landscape. This image of Dead Moros, riding to the frozen wilderness, embodies the power and majesty of the Russian winter, and his troika is a symbol of the cold but beautiful season. His magical staff is also a key feature of his character, symbolizing his control over the natural elements. When he strikes the earth with his staff, snow falls and the cold winds blow, reinforcing his connection to the winter weather and the forces of nature. Though Dead Moros is a figure of winter, his role in the Russian New Year celebrations is marked by joy and festivity. He is a figure who brings the spirit of generosity and celebration, and he is often accompanied by his granddaughter, Sneguraka, the Snow Maiden. Sneguraka is a figure in her own right, a magical character who is often depicted as a young woman made of snow. She is said to be the daughter of winter itself, a beautiful figure who embodies the purity and serenity of the season. Together, Dead Moros and Sneguraka form a pair that represents the dual aspects of winter, its beauty and harshness, its coldness and warmth. The image of Dead Moros and Sneguraka has become an iconic part of the Russian New Year and Christmas celebrations, and they are often seen at the heart of public festivities. In the weeks leading up to the New Year, children eagerly await the arrival of Dead Moros, who visits homes and offers gifts. In many parts of Russia, it is a beloved tradition for families to invite Dead Moros and Sneguraka into their homes, where they bring presents, tell stories, and share in the festive spirit. In addition to the exchange of gifts, these visits often include singing, dancing, and storytelling, all of which contribute to the magical atmosphere that surrounds the holiday season. In the Soviet era, the celebration of New Year's became a highly anticipated event, with Grandfather Frost at the center of it all. His image was often used in propaganda and public celebrations as a symbol of the unity and strength of the Soviet people. The idea of Ded Moroz as a figure who brought happiness and good fortune to children, despite the hardships of the year, was a powerful symbol of hope and renewal. His character was a reminder that even in the harshest of times, there could still be moments of joy and celebration, and that the spirit of generosity and kindness could overcome the coldest and most difficult of winters. However, Ded Moroz's character was not always tied solely to the secular New Year celebrations. Even before the Soviet era, the figure of Grandfather Frost was part of a larger pantheon of spirits and deities connected to the winter season. In Slavic mythology, there were various frost spirits who were believed to control the harshness of winter and the forces of nature. Some of these spirits were malevolent, bringing the bitter cold and frost, while others were more benevolent, offering blessings of snow and ice that allowed the earth to rest and regenerate. Ded Moroz, in his earliest form, was more akin to these ancient frost spirits, often viewed with both respect and fear, as someone who held the power to both create and destroy. Today, Ded Moroz has become a beloved figure, not only in Russia, but also in many of the countries that were once part of the Soviet Union, such as Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. While he has taken on the trappings of a secular holiday figure, he still carries with him the essence of winter's power and mystery. He represents the enduring spirit of winter, a time of rest, reflection, and renewal. Just as St. Nicholas embodies the spirit of generosity and Krampus the spirit of consequence, Ded Moroz embodies the spirit of endurance, the ability to face the harshest seasons of life and still find joy, warmth, and hope. Through Ded Moroz, the Russian people continue to celebrate the deep connection between nature, mythology, and the human spirit. His role in New Year celebrations is a reminder that even in the darkest and coldest months, there's magic to be found in the world, and that the spirit of giving kindness and resilience can warm even the harshest of winters. Grandfather Frost, with his frosty beard and twinkling eyes, reminds us that the beauty of winter lies not only in its chill, but also in the warmth that it inspires in our hearts. As we trace the evolution of Christmas figures, one of the most fascinating aspects is how the legends of St. Nicholas, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost spread across the world, merging with local traditions and customs to create the diverse and multifaceted holiday figures we recognize today. What began in the distant corners of Europe, rooted in ancient myths, religious tales, and folklore, gradually expanded beyond national borders, eventually becoming global icons of the Christmas season. The spread of these figures is not just a story of cultural diffusion, but one of adaptation, fusion, and transformation. Each region added its own unique twist, imbuing the figures with characteristics that reflected local values, climate, and history. Through the centuries, Christmas evolved from a religious observance into a global celebration of family, kindness, and the joy of giving, shaped by a diverse cast of holiday figures. In the United States, for example, the blending of Dutch and British Christmas traditions gave rise to the modern figure of Santa Claus. The early Dutch settlers brought their version of St. Nicholas, Sinterklaas, to New York in the 17th century, where he merged with British Christmas customs. The image of a man who brought gifts to children, already popular in Europe, was shaped by Clement Clarke Moore's poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, which introduced the now iconic sleigh, reindeer, and chimney entries. This new American version of St. Nicholas was then further popularized in the 19th century by the illustrations of Thomas Nast. Santa Claus, as he became known, was firmly established in American culture, thanks to the media and advertising of the 20th century, particularly the iconic Coca-Cola ads that solidified his appearance as the plump, red-suited jolly figure we recognize today. From there, Santa Claus went on to become a global symbol, his image appearing on Christmas cards, decorations, and in films all over the world. Yet, this transformation was not confined to the United States. As Christmas figures spread, they adapted to the values and customs of the regions where they took root. In Mexico, the legend of St. Nicholas merged with indigenous traditions and Catholic influence, leading to the development of unique holiday figures like El Niño Dios, the Christ Child, and Los Reyes Magos, the Three Wise Men. Christmas in Mexico is not just about receiving gifts. It's a time for communal gatherings, prayers, and the celebration of Christ's birth. The Three Kings, whose arrival is celebrated on January 6, became central to the gift-giving tradition. Much like Santa Claus, they are said to bring presents to children, particularly those who are well-behaved. But unlike the North American Santa Claus, these figures are often seen as wise, spiritual bringers of gifts rather than jolly and merry figures. The blending of indigenous, Christian, and European elements made the Mexican Christmas celebration distinct, emphasizing family, faith, and the joy of shared community experiences. In Scandinavian countries, the traditions surrounding Christmas are similarly rich and unique. The figure of Santa Claus was influenced by St. Nicholas, but local variations emerged. In Denmark, Norway, and Sweden, children eagerly await the arrival of julenissen, a version of Santa Claus that retains many of the characteristics of the original St. Nicholas figure, but with distinct local traits. In particular, julenissen is often depicted as a gnome-like creature who lives in the forest and has a particular fondness for mischievous behavior. He's not only a bringer of gifts, but also a spirit of the countryside, representing the agricultural roots of Scandinavian cultures. In these regions, the concept of the Yule goat, Julbakken, is also an important part of the holiday tradition. This mythical creature, often depicted as a fearsome goat, was originally thought to be a servant of the gods who ensured that sacrifices were made to ensure the fertility of the land. Over time, the Yule goat became more associated with gift-giving, and in some Scandinavian countries, it was believed to help julenissen deliver presents to children. In Eastern Europe, particularly in countries like Poland, Hungary, and Slovakia, St. Nicholas's legacy lives on, but there are notable variations. Here, the figure of St. Nicholas is still celebrated on December 6th, with children eagerly awaiting his visit to their homes. However, in countries like Poland, there's a strong emphasis on family and faith, and St. Nicholas is often portrayed as a figure who combines both religious and charitable roles. He's seen not only as a gift bringer, but also as a spiritual guide, reminding people of the true meaning of Christmas. In Hungary, the figure of Mythical plays a similar role to St. Nicholas, visiting children on the night of December 5th. He's often accompanied by a more fearsome figure, Krampus, who serves as a reminder of the importance of good behavior. The duality of St. Nicholas and Krampus, the kind, generous figure alongside the frightening one who enforces discipline, can be found in many parts of Eastern Europe, where Christmas celebrations often revolve around a balance of joy and moral lessons. The spread of Christmas figures was not only influenced by cultural traditions, but also by the expansion of European colonial empires. As European powers colonized various parts of the world, they brought their customs and legends with them, including those surrounding Christmas. In the Caribbean and South America, Christmas traditions were often shaped by a mix of indigenous cultures, African heritage, and European influence. In places like Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, Christmas celebrations feature a blend of Catholic rituals, African-inspired music, and the festive spirit brought by European settlers. Santa Claus is a well-loved figure here, but so too are the traditions of gift-giving associated with the Three Kings, creating a unique fusion of customs that celebrates both the spiritual and communal aspects of the season. The spread of Christmas traditions also brought with it the influence of modern advertising, which played a crucial role in shaping the global image of Santa Claus. In the early 20th century, advertisements for Christmas gift, holiday sales, and even soft drinks helped cement the image of Santa Claus as the embodiment of holiday cheer. Coca-Cola's famous ads, which began in the 1930s, feature a plump, rosy-cheeked Santa bringing joy and gifts to children all over the world. These advertisements not only popularized Santa Claus's image, but also commercialized Christmas itself, turning it into a consumer-driven holiday celebrated around the globe. Today, the global spread of Christmas figures like St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost represents the intersection of cultural exchange, mythology, and modern commercialization. These figures have been shaped and reshaped by countless cultures, each adding its own layer to the rich history of Christmas. Whether as symbols of generosity, mischief, or moral guidance, they reflect the universal themes of family, kindness, and the hope for a brighter future that transcend national borders. In the end, what began as a Christian holiday in the snowy lands of Europe has grown into a celebration that unites people from all walks of life, across continents and cultures. The figure of Santa Claus may be the most recognizable, but he is just one piece of a larger mosaic of global holiday traditions, each as unique and diverse as the cultures that celebrate them. As we look at the rich tapestry of holiday traditions, it becomes increasingly evident that the figures who have come to represent Christmas, whether they are rooted in ancient mythologies or more modern incarnations, continue to play a significant role in shaping the way we celebrate today. From the jolly and universally adored Santa Claus to the darker figures like Krampus, these characters are not merely relics of the past. They are living, breathing symbols that adapt to the changing dynamics of society and the evolving nature of the holiday season. Their roles in contemporary celebrations, whether through gift-giving communal gatherings or simply evoking a sense of wonder, reflect the timeless appeal of these figures and the enduring power of tradition. Santa Claus, perhaps the most iconic of all holiday figures, has seen his role evolve dramatically in the modern era, particularly in the context of commercialized Christmas celebrations. Today, Santa Claus is a central figure not only in homes but in stores, shopping malls, and advertisements. His image as a benevolent gift-bringer has become so deeply entrenched in global culture that it's hard to imagine a Christmas season without him. In fact, for many, Santa Claus is synonymous with the Christmas holiday itself, and the act of gift-giving is often associated with his generous spirit. However, Santa's modern role goes far beyond just delivering toys to children. He has become a symbol of kindness, joy, and the magic of the season, and his character is woven into the fabric of modern Christmas celebrations. The tradition of leaving cookies and milk out for Santa, for example, has become a beloved family ritual that emphasizes the excitement of the holiday and the shared experience of waiting for his arrival. In recent years, Santa has also become a figure of inclusivity, representing not just children but families and communities as a whole. The idea of Santa bringing joy to the world, spreading goodwill, and embodying the spirit of selflessness and generosity continues to resonate with people of all ages. Yet, Santa's role today is not without its complexities. The commercialization of Christmas, with its emphasis on shopping, consumerism, and advertising, has led to questions about the true meaning of the holiday. For many, the overwhelming presence of Santa Claus in media, especially in advertisements, has led concerns that the essence of Christmas, its spiritual and familial aspects, might be overshadowed by materialism. Santa has become a figure used to sell everything from toys to cars, clothing to food, and the commercialization of his image has led to a growing debate over the commercialization of Christmas itself. Despite this, the heart of Santa Claus's role remains rooted in the joy of giving and the creation of shared memories. In modern society, Santa continues to bring people together, whether through family gatherings, community events, or charitable initiatives. The idea of Santa as a symbol of generosity has been embraced by countless organizations and individuals who use the season to give back to those in need. Through programs like Toys for Tots, Secret Santa gift exchanges, and food drives, the spirit of Santa Claus has become a beacon of hope and kindness for those who may be less fortunate during the holiday season. Alongside Santa Claus, there is also the growing recognition of the darker, more mischievous figures associated with Christmas, such as Krampus. While Krampus may have once been relegated to the margins of Christmas celebrations, he has seen a resurgence in recent years, particularly in pop culture. In countries like Austria, Germany, and Hungary, Krampusnacht, the Night of Krampus, has become a major event, with people dressing up as a terrifying figure and parading through the streets. This resurgence of Krampus can be seen as a reflection of society's desire to embrace all aspects of the holiday season, not just the cheerful and lighthearted, but also the more complex and even frightening elements. Krampus represents the balance between good and evil, joy and consequence, light and dark, that are fundamental to the human experience. While Santa Claus rewards good behavior, Krampus punishes the naughty. In a sense, Krampus serves as a reminder that the holiday season is not only about joy and gifts, but also about accountability and the moral lessons that guide our actions. His resurgence is part of a broader cultural trend of embracing the full spectrum of human experience during the holiday season. In a world where the pressure to be perpetually happy can often feel overwhelming, Krampus offers a more complex, even cathartic, alternative that acknowledges the existence of hardship, fear, and imperfection, while still maintaining the hope that goodness will ultimately prevail. In Russia and parts of Eastern Europe, the figure of Grandfather Frost, or Dead Moros, has maintained a central role in New Year and Christmas celebrations. Unlike the more commercialized Santa Claus, Dead Moros has retained much of its traditional connection to winter and the natural world. His role in modern celebrations has evolved, but he continues to be a key figure in Russian culture, embodying the spirit of resilience and endurance in the face of winter's harshness. He is not just a bringer of gifts, but a symbol of the beauty and challenge of the season, as well as a reminder of the deep cultural ties to the land and the elements. In these modern celebrations, Dead Moros remains a beloved figure, but his story, like that of Santa Claus, is now celebrated in a more secular and family-oriented way. He is no longer just a figure of ancient mythology, but a character who brings joy and excitement to the festive season. Much like his Western counterparts, Dead Moros is a symbol of the power of tradition and the enduring joy of family and community during the holidays. His connection to the winter landscape and his role as a bringer of light during the darkest time of the year is a timeless message of hope and renewal. Throughout the world, the figures associated with Christmas continue to evolve and adapt to the changing times. As we move further into the 21st century, the roles of these characters are increasingly shaped by the global nature of the holiday, where cultures intersect, adapt, and borrow from one another. The character of Santa Claus, for example, is now celebrated in countries as diverse as Japan, Australia, and South Africa, each with its own unique spin on the tradition. The idea of giving gifts, of spreading joy, and of coming together to share in the warmth of the holiday season has become universal, transcending geographic, cultural, and religious boundaries. The modern role of Christmas figures is not just about bringing presents. It is about bringing people together, whether through family gatherings, community events, or charitable actions. They remind us that, despite the differences in our individual traditions, we all share the same human need for connection, joy, and compassion. These figures, Santa Claus, Krampus, Grandfather Frost, serve as a bridge between the past and the present, between the old and the new, reminding us of the enduring values that lie at the heart of the holiday season: kindness, generosity, and the importance of shared experiences. In the end, Christmas figures continue to shape our modern celebrations by embodying the deep-seated human desire for connection, community, and the joy of giving. Whether we embrace the lightheartedness of Santa Claus or the darker elements embodied by figures like Krampus, they all serve to remind us of the magic that exists in our shared traditions and the universal themes of hope, joy, and kindness that transcend all cultures and nations. The influence of Christmas figures on modern culture and media is profound, as they have transcended their traditional roles to become symbols that appear in everything from advertisements and movies to music and social media. These figures, such as Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost, have evolved far beyond their origins in folklore and religious tradition, becoming central figures in the global celebration of Christmas. Their presence in modern culture is not just a reflection of the holiday spirit, but also a reflection of how society has shaped and reshaped these myths to fit contemporary values, desires, and concerns. One of the most significant ways Christmas figures have influenced modern culture is through their representation in the media. In particular, Santa Claus has become a ubiquitous figure in advertising, especially in the United States, where his image is used to sell everything from toys to cars to soft drinks. Coca-Cola, in particular, is often credited with cementing the modern image of Santa Claus as a jolly, plump man in a red suit. In the 1930s, Coca-Cola's holiday advertisements featured a friendly, approachable Santa, a figure who exuded warmth and generosity, qualities that perfectly matched the company's brand. These images were so widely circulated that they became the standard portrayal of Santa Claus, influencing not just American culture, but cultures around the world. Today, Santa Claus is one of the most recognizable commercial figures in the world, and his image is used to evoke feelings of nostalgia, joy, and goodwill, making him an integral part of the consumer experience during the holiday season. But while Santa Claus is the most commercially recognizable Christmas figure, other characters, such as Krampus and Grandfather Frost, have also gained prominence in recent years. The resurgence of Krampus, in particular, has been notable, as he has made appearances in films, TV shows, and even Halloween-themed events. Traditionally a figure of fear, Krampus has been embraced by contemporary audiences for his dark, mischievous qualities, providing a counterpoint to the overwhelmingly cheerful image of Christmas. In films like Krampus, 2015, the terrifying spirit has been transformed into a horror comedy figure, a reflection of society's growing interest in blending the sacred with the macabre. This shift represents a cultural fascination with complexity of the holiday season, acknowledging that even in times of joy, there are elements of darkness and consequence. The resurgence of Krampus in modern media can also be seen as part of a broader trend of embracing the darker side of holiday traditions. For example, Christmas has long been a time for people to confront the complexities of their lives: loss, isolation, anxiety, feelings that are often hidden behind the shiny facade of consumerism and festivity. Figures like Krampus provide an outlet for exploring these feelings in a way that is both humorous and cathartic, allowing audiences to confront the discomfort of the holiday season without diminishing its spirit. Krampus, in this sense, serves as a reminder that the holiday season is not just about unbridled joy, but also about reflection, moral lessons, and the realities of life. In addition to Krampus, other Christmas figures have found their place in modern media and popular culture. The tradition of storytelling around Christmas has flourished, with films, books, and music all playing important roles in shaping how we view the holiday. Iconic movies like A Christmas Carol, based on Charles Dickens' novella, Miracle on 34th Street, and The Polar Express have become beloved traditions in their own right, with their portrayals of figures like Ebenezer Scrooge, Kris Kringle, and Santa Claus cementing these characters' places in the cultural consciousness. These films often emphasize the timeless themes of generosity, redemption, and community, values that are deeply associated with Christmas. As these stories have been retold over generations, the characters themselves have morphed into symbols of hope and goodwill, carrying with them the weight of history, while continuing to inspire new generations. Music, too, has played a crucial role in keeping these figures alive in popular culture. Christmas songs, particularly those about Santa Claus, are some of the most recognized and played songs in the world. From Jingle Bells to Santa Claus is Coming to Town and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, these tunes have become an inseparable part of the holiday season, ensuring that the figures who populate our Christmas celebrations are always at the forefront of our minds. The lyrics and melodies reinforce the values of the season, from Santa's generosity to the joy of children eagerly awaiting his arrival. These songs, played on the radio and in stores, create an atmosphere of festive cheer, reinforcing the emotional connection to Christmas figures that many people carry with them from childhood. Social media has added another layer to the presence of Christmas figures in modern culture. Platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook have created spaces for people to share their holiday traditions and spread festive cheer. Many people now share photos of their Christmas decorations, including their Santas, Krampuses, and winter-themed ornaments. This virtual sharing has led to the rise of viral trends, such as the elf on the shelf phenomenon, where families post images of mischievous little elves that watch children and report their behavior to Santa. While the elf on the shelf is a relatively recent addition to the pantheon of Christmas figures, its impact has been significant, reflecting the growing use of social media to create and share traditions. The widespread adoption of such characters in everyday life demonstrates the increasing integration of Christmas figures into modern culture, not just as distant myths or folklore, but as active participants in our collective holiday celebrations. The portrayal of Christmas figures in the media has also become more inclusive in recent years, reflecting the growing recognition of diversity and the need for representation in holiday traditions. While the traditional image of Santa Claus has often been a white, middle-aged man, modern depictions of Santa have embraced a broader range of identities. In movies, commercials, and TV specials, Santa has been portrayed by actors of various races, genders, and backgrounds, reflecting the multicultural nature of contemporary society. Similarly, other Christmas figures, such as Krampus and Grandfather Frost, have been reimagined in ways that resonate with different cultural traditions. This inclusivity is a reminder that the holiday season is a time for people from all walks of life to come together and celebrate the shared values of love, kindness, and community, regardless of cultural or ethnic differences. The role of Christmas figures in modern media and culture is not just about nostalgia or commercialization. It's also about connection and the human need for stories that bring us together. These figures, whether they're the joyous Santa Claus or the mischievous Krampus, represent our collective hopes, fears, and values. They remind us that the holiday season is not just about the gift we receive or give, but also about the deeper connections we form with one another. Through movies, music, social media, and advertisements, the figures of Christmas continue to evolve and shape our celebrations, allowing us to revisit timeless themes while also forging new traditions that speak to the present moment. In the end, the influence of Christmas figures on modern culture and media is a testament to the enduring power of storytelling. From their origins in ancient myths to their roles in contemporary celebrations, these characters have continued to inspire and captivate audiences around the world. They remind us that, no matter how much society changes, the core messages of Christmas, generosity, kindness, community, and hope, remain as relevant as ever. Whether through a Coca-Cola advertisement, a Christmas carol, or a holiday film, these figures have become integral parts of our shared experience, linking the past with the present and helping us navigate the complexities of the season with joy and warmth. The figures that populate Christmas traditions, whether they be Santa Claus, Krampus, or Grandfather Frost, are not just stories or symbols of the season. They hold a deeper psychological and emotional significance for those who encounter them. From the joy and wonder they inspire in children to the complex emotions they evoke in adults, these figures tap into deep-seated human needs and desires. They are more than mere myths. They embody universal themes of hope, fear, generosity, and redemption, which have a profound impact on our emotional well-being and the way we experience the holiday season. By exploring how these figures influence our thoughts and emotions, we can gain a better understanding of why they continue to captivate our imaginations and shape our celebrations year after year. One of the most significant emotional impacts of Christmas figures is a sense of wonder and excitement they bring to children. From an early age, children are introduced to Santa Claus, and they are taught to believe in his magical ability to travel the world in a single night, delivering gifts to good children. This belief creates an unparalleled sense of anticipation and joy during the Christmas season. The idea that a figure as jolly and kind as Santa will be watching over them, rewarding their good behavior, and filling their stockings with presents, imbues the holiday with a sense of magic and possibility. For children, Santa is more than just a character. He represents a tangible connection to the idea of goodness, generosity, and the rewards of kindness. The emotional experience of waiting for Santa's arrival is not just about the presents. It is also about the shared rituals that accompany the belief in him. Writing letters to Santa, leaving out cookies and milk, or imagining his sleigh flying through the night sky. These rituals help foster a sense of excitement and joy, building anticipation for the holiday, while also providing children with a sense of belonging within their families and communities. The figure of Santa Claus helps to nurture the belief that kindness and generosity are values worth striving for, as he serves as a reward for good behavior and encourages children to be their best selves. For adults, the psychological impact of Christmas figures is more nuanced. While the magic of Santa Claus may fade with age, the emotional resonance of these figures does not disappear. Instead, adults often reflect on the deeper meanings of the season, and the figures of Christmas provide a framework for exploring themes of nostalgia, gratitude, and family. Santa, once a figure of childhood wonder, becomes a symbol of the selfless giving that defines the holiday season. As adults, we may begin to see Santa not just as a bringer of gifts, but as a representation of the importance of giving without expecting anything in return. The spirit of Christmas, embodied by Santa, can serve as a reminder to reconnect with the values of generosity, kindness, and compassion, especially during a time when commercialism and materialism can overshadow these ideals. In contrast, figures like Krampus bring a more complex emotional layer to the holiday season. While Santa Claus embodies positivity and reward, Krampus represents the consequences of bad behavior, a more uncomfortable but ultimately necessary part of the human experience. The fearsome nature of Krampus can invoke feelings of anxiety or even terror, but also serve a psychological function. Krampus reminds us that not all actions are without consequence, and that moral behavior is important not just for personal growth, but for the well-being of the community. For adults, Krampus can evoke a reminder of the duality of the holiday season, the light and dark, the joy and sorrow that we all experience in life. Krampus may be unsettling, but he provides a stark contrast to the consumer-driven joy of Christmas, emphasizing that moral values and discipline are just as important as the festive spirit. Psychologically, Krampus also speaks to deeper fears that we may have about being naughty or failing to live up to societal expectations. In a world that often stresses the importance of success, discipline, and good behavior, the figure of Krampus highlights the darker, more negative emotions that can arise from feeling inadequate or unworthy. His role during the holiday season may seem terrifying, but in many ways, Krampus functions as an externalization of the feelings we all harbor about failure and fear of punishment. Just as Santa Claus represents a potential for reward and success, Krampus embodies the consequences of neglecting personal responsibility and ethical behavior. By confronting this fear, we can better appreciate the positive aspects of the holiday season and remind ourselves of the values that make it meaningful. In the case of Grandfather Frost or Dead Moros, the psychological and emotional impact is often one of resilience and endurance. Grandfather Frost represents the enduring spirit of winter, and in many ways, his role mirrors the psychological challenges that the winter season can bring. Winter is often associated with rest, reflection, and the challenges of survival in harsh conditions. Grandfather Frost's presence reminds us that the cold, dark months are not just about hardship, but about strength, renewal, and the possibility of transformation. Dead Moros, like Santa, encourages generosity, but his association with the vast, unforgiving landscape of winter also emphasizes resilience, the ability to endure hardship and find joy in the midst of difficult circumstances. In a world where the holiday season can sometimes bring feelings of stress, sadness, or isolation, the figure of Dead Moros can offer comfort. His arrival at the darkest time of the year represents the hope of brighter days ahead and the promise of warmth and community in the face of adversity. His role in Russian New Year traditions, in particular, reflects the importance of family and togetherness. He encourages a sense of collective strength and reminds us that, even in the depths of winter, we are not alone. Dead Moros is a figure of hope, a reminder that, no matter how cold or dark life may seem, we have capacity to find warmth in each other and in the traditions that connect us to our past and our loved ones. The emotional impact of these figures is not limited to the joy or fear they evoke. They also serve as tools for reflection and personal growth. Christmas figures encourage us to think about our actions, our values, and the meaning of the holiday season. They prompt us to ask ourselves important questions. Are we living with kindness? Are we fulfilling our responsibilities? Are we connected to the people who matter most? In this sense, Christmas figures become mirrors, reflecting our hopes and fears, our aspirations and shortcomings, and the collective values we hold dear as society. The rituals associated with these figures also play an essential role in shaping our emotional experience of the holiday. The act of giving gifts, telling stories, and celebrating together creates a sense of belonging and connection, which is particularly important during a season that often highlights both joy and loneliness. These figures, whether they are seen as mythical creatures or symbolic representations of virtues, allow us to experience the emotional highs and lows of the season in a way that fosters growth, reflection, and emotional resilience. In the end, the psychological and emotional impact of Christmas figures goes far beyond the stories themselves. These characters serve as conduits for deep emotional experiences, guiding us to the complex landscape of the holiday season. They offer us comfort, hope, and joy, but they also challenge us to confront the darker aspects of our own emotions and behaviors. Whether it is a hope that Santa Claus inspires, the fear that Krampus invokes, or the resilience that Grandfather Frost embodies, these figures remain deeply embedded in our collective consciousness, shaping the way we experience Christmas and the way we navigate the emotional landscape of life itself. As the world becomes increasingly interconnected, the evolution of Christmas figures, such as Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost, has taken on new dimensions. These characters, once confined to specific regions and cultures, now transcend geographical and cultural boundaries, taking on new meanings and forms as they adapt to a rapidly changing globalized world. The impact of globalization on these iconic figures is not just about their widespread recognition, but also about how they have been reinterpreted to fit diverse cultural contexts and societal shifts. Through the lens of globalization, we can trace the development of these figures from their roots in mythology and folklore to their modern incarnations in media, commerce, and holiday celebrations around the world. One of the most significant ways that globalization has influenced the evolution of Christmas figures is through the way they have been adapted and incorporated into various cultural traditions. Santa Claus, originally based on the Dutch Sinterklaas and heavily influenced by Christian and European traditions, has become a universal figure of Christmas. His image is now ubiquitous in countries all over the world, from North and South America to Europe, Asia, and beyond. While the core characteristics of Santa Claus remain largely the same, a jolly, bearded man in a red suit, bringing gifts to children. The way in which he is celebrated and portrayed varies from country to country. In Japan, for example, where Christmas is not a traditional holiday, Santa Claus has been embraced in a distinctly non-religious and commercial way. Japanese Christmas traditions center around the idea of spreading happiness and joy, and Santa Claus has become a beloved figure associated with festive gift-giving. However, in Japan, Christmas is not a time for family reunions or religious observance. Instead, it has become more of a romantic holiday, where couples exchange gifts and spend time together. In this context, Santa Claus plays a smaller, yet still significant, role as a symbol of happiness and festive spirit. The fusion of Western Christmas imagery with Japanese customs highlights how globalized figures like Santa Claus can be adapted to fit local traditions, even in countries where the holiday itself is not deeply ingrained in the culture. Similarly, in countries like Brazil and Argentina, where Christmas falls during the summer months, Santa Claus has adapted to the warmer climate. Brazilian and Argentine depictions of Santa often show him dressed in lighter clothing, sometimes wearing a white suit instead of the traditional red, in order to reflect the heat of the Southern Hemisphere's holiday season. In these regions, Christmas is still associated with family gatherings, feasts, and celebrations, but the visual representation of Santa reflects the cultural and environmental differences of the region. This adaptation demonstrates how Christmas figures can be reshaped to resonate with local customs, environments, and societal expectations, while still maintaining their core identity as symbols of joy, generosity, and togetherness. While Santa Claus has undoubtedly become a global figure, other Christmas characters, such as Krampus and Grandfather Frost, have also made their way into the global consciousness, albeit in different ways. The resurgence of Krampus in Western pop culture, for example, can be traced back to the influence of globalized media. In countries like Austria and Germany, Krampus was traditionally seen as a frightening counterpart to St. Nicholas, a figure who would punish children who had misbehaved. However, as globalization and the spread of media have brought attention to this dark figure, Krampus has evolved into a symbol of not only fear, but also of rebellion, humor, and even alternative holiday traditions. In recent years, Krampus has become a popular figure in movies, books, and festivals outside of Central Europe. The 2015 film Krampus, for example, brought the character to mainstream audiences in the United States, where he was portrayed as a mischievous and terrifying creature who punishes the naughty. The resurgence of Krampus in Western pop culture is part of a broader trend of reclaiming dark, countercultural figures as a way to subvert traditional, commercialized holiday celebrations. This reflects a growing interest in exploring the complexities and contradictions of the holiday season, as well as a desire to reimagine traditional figures in ways that resonate with modern sensibilities. Krampus's global resurgence speaks of the power of globalization in reshaping old myths and legends, transforming them into symbols of alternative holiday celebrations that embrace both the joyful and the darker, more mysterious aspects of the season. Grandfather Frost, too, has been impacted by globalization, particularly through the spread of Russian culture and traditions to countries once part of the Soviet Union. While Grandfather Frost remains a central figure in Russian New Year celebrations, his influence has extended to neighboring countries like Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, where he has taken on varying forms and roles. In these regions, dead morals have become more secularized, serving as a symbol of winter's beauty and the celebration of family and community during the coldest months of the year. The influence of Grandfather Frost has also spread to countries outside the former Soviet Union, as Russian traditions have become more visible in global culture exchanges, particularly through music, film, and literature. In the broader context of globalization, these Christmas figures are not just being commercialized. They are also being used as vehicles for political and cultural exchange. As countries and cultures become more interconnected, the figures associated with Christmas have been embraced by international corporations and organizations as symbols of peace, goodwill, and shared human values. Santa Claus, for example, is often used in advertisements not only to promote consumer goods, but also to embody universal themes of kindness, charity, and community spirit. This commercial appropriation of Christmas figures, while sometimes criticized for its commodification of the holiday, also speaks to the global desire for shared symbols that transcend cultural and national boundaries. In a world that is increasingly fragmented by politics, economic, and ideology, these figures provide a sense of unity and common ground, a way for people from all walks of life to connect over shared rituals, stories, and values. However, the spread of Christmas figures in a globalized world is not without its challenges. As these figures move beyond their cultural origins, they can sometimes lose the depth and nuance of their original meanings. In some cases, their adaptation to global markets has led to the dilution of their historical and cultural significance, as the focus shifts from tradition to consumerism. For example, the commercialization of Santa Claus has led to the figure becoming more of a marketing tool than a symbol of generosity and kindness. While this has made Santa more accessible to a global audience, it has also raised questions about the authenticity of his image and the role of commercial interests in shaping our understanding of holiday traditions. Similarly, the spread of Christmas figures like Krampus and Grandfather Frost raises questions about cultural appropriation and the commodification of traditions. As these figures are embraced by cultures outside of their places of origin, they risk being stripped of the meaning and context that made them significant in the first place. The adaptation of these figures to fit globalized holiday celebrations must be done with care and respect for their origins, ensuring that they are not merely used as superficial symbols of the season, but are allowed to retain their cultural and historical roots. Despite these challenges, the evolution of Christmas figures in a globalized world highlights the resilience of these myths and the enduring power of storytelling. As they adapt to new cultural contexts, these figures continue to represent universal values, generosity, kindness, morality, and community that resonate across national and cultural boundaries. Whether they are depicted as jolly old men in red suits or fearsome creatures of the dark, these characters are testament to the power of myth and tradition to transcend time and space, uniting people around the world in the shared experience of the holiday season. In the end, the globalization of Christmas figures speaks to the ever-changing nature of culture and tradition. As they evolve, these figures continue to reflect the complexities and contradictions of the modern world, offering us a glimpse into the ways in which ancient myths can adapt to contemporary society. Whether in their original forms or through new interpretations, these figures continue to shape our understanding of the holiday season, reminding us of the values that unite us all, no matter where we come from or how we celebrate. The figures that embody Christmas traditions, Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost, play an integral role not only in shaping the way we celebrate the holiday, but also in fostering a sense of continuity and connection across generations. These characters are more than just figures of myth. They are part of a larger cultural narrative that links the past with the present, connecting families, communities, and societies to shared experiences and values. Over time, Christmas figures have become powerful symbols, transmitting cultural beliefs, customs, and rituals to new generations, and ensuring that the magic, joy, and lessons of the holiday season are passed down from one era to the next. One of the most prominent ways in which Christmas figures shape holiday traditions is through their role in the intergenerational transmission of customs. In many families, the belief in Santa Claus is something that is passed down from parent to child, and eventually from grandparent to grandchild. This process of passing down stories and traditions fosters a sense of continuity and belonging, creating a bond between generations that is centered on shared experiences. Parents and grandparents often take on the role of storytellers, regaling their children with tales of Santa's journey around the world or the mischievous antics of Krampus, weaving the characters into the fabric of family life. In doing so, they help preserve the cultural narrative surrounding these figures and ensure that their significance remains intact across generations. The rituals associated with these figures, such as leaving cookies for Santa or participating in the Krampusnacht festivities, are often passed down as cherished family traditions. For children, these rituals create a sense of wonder and excitement, while also reinforcing the importance of tradition and the continuity of family values. These practices are not just about the holiday itself, but about creating lasting memories and fostering a sense of togetherness. Each year, the same stories are told, the same songs are sung, and the same customs are carried out, deepening the emotional connection to the holiday and creating a sense of stability and comfort in a world that is constantly changing. The Christmas figures, through these rituals, provide a link to the past, anchoring families in a shared sense of history and cultural heritage. As children grow older and begin to understand that the magic of Santa Claus may be a story, they often take on new roles in tradition, becoming the ones who help perpetuate the belief for younger siblings or children of their own. This passing of the torch from one generation to the next is a powerful moment of transformation. The act of becoming the storyteller or the one who helps create the magic for others allows adults to reconnect with the childlike wonder they once felt, while also ensuring that the tradition remains alive for future generations. In this way, Christmas figures like Santa Claus continue to shape the holiday experience, not just as a source of joy and excitement, but as a way of creating shared memories and reinforcing familial bonds. The role of Christmas figures in shaping holiday traditions is also evident in the way that different cultures adapt and incorporate these characters into their own celebrations. While Santa Claus is perhaps the most well-known Christmas figure worldwide, other characters, such as Krampus and Grandfather Frost, have taken on their own significance within different cultural contexts, influencing the ways in which people celebrate the holiday season. In countries like Austria, Germany, and Hungary, Krampus is a prominent figure during the Christmas season, especially around December 5th, when Krampusnacht is celebrated. In these regions, Krampus is not just a mischievous figure, but a symbol of the moral lessons that accompany the holiday season. Lessons about good behavior, discipline, and the consequences of one's actions. Krampus serves as a reminder that Christmas is not just about receiving gifts, but about maintaining personal integrity and understanding the importance of community values. In Russia and other parts of Eastern Europe, the figure of Grandfather Frost, Dead Moros, continues to play a central role in the celebration of New Year and Christmas traditions. Unlike Santa Claus, who is often depicted as a jolly, round figure with a red suit, Grandfather Frost is typically portrayed as a tall, lean figure, often dressed in blue or silver robes. His role in Eastern European traditions emphasizes the power of winter and the strength required to endure its harshness. Grandfather Frost, much like the other Christmas figures, is not just a figure of gift-giving, but a symbol of resilience, endurance, and renewal. His appearance signals the end of one year and the beginning of the next, offering a sense of hope and renewal during the darkest days of winter. As Christmas figures like Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost continue to shape holiday traditions across generations, they also play a role in defining the way we experience the holiday season itself. In many ways, the way we celebrate Christmas is deeply influenced by the stories and rituals associated with these figures, whether through the anticipation of Santa's arrival, the playful terror of Krampus, or the warmth of Grandfather Frost's embrace. These figures help to frame the experience of the holiday, guiding our expectations and emotions as we come together with family and friends to celebrate. They provide a sense of structure and meaning, helping to transform a mere holiday into a rich, shared cultural event. The stories surrounding Christmas figures also help to shape the way we approach the deeper meanings of the season. At their core, Christmas figures like Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost represent fundamental human values: generosity, kindness, moral responsibility, and hope. These values are passed down through the generations, helping to reinforce the importance of community, family, and personal growth. For children, these figures embody the ideals of good behavior, kindness, and the rewards of generosity. For adults, they serve as reminders of the importance of giving, the need for compassion, and the role of personal responsibility in creating a better world. In this way, Christmas figures not only shape the way we celebrate the holiday, but also help to shape the broader cultural understanding of what Christmas represents. They influence how we perceive the season, the values we associate with it, and the way we interact with one another during this special time. Through their roles in shaping holiday traditions, these figures help to create a sense of continuity and connection between generations, ensuring that the spirit of Christmas remains alive and vibrant in the hearts and minds of people around the world. Moreover, these figures provide a sense of shared joy and celebration, uniting people across different backgrounds, cultures, and traditions. Whether it's through the universal appeal of Santa Claus, the darker allure of Krampus, or the enduring strength of Grandfather Frost, these figures represent a common thread that runs through the global tapestry of Christmas celebrations. They remind us that, no matter where we are in the world or how we choose to celebrate, the essence of the holiday is the same: the joy of giving, the warmth of family, and the hope for a better tomorrow. Ultimately, The role of Christmas figures in shaping holiday traditions across generations is one of continuity, connection, and celebration. These characters have stood the test of time, evolving with each passing generation, while remaining rooted in the values and customs that have defined the holiday season for centuries. Through their stories, rituals, and symbolism, they help to create a rich, shared tradition that continues to shape the way we experience Christmas, connecting us to our past, our families, and each other in a spirit of warmth, love, and togetherness. While Christmas is primarily associated with Christianity, the figures that represent the holiday season, such as Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost, hold significant cultural value in non-Christian traditions as well. These figures transcend religious boundaries and have been adopted, adapted, or reinterpreted in ways that reflect the broader human experiences of community, celebration, and the values of generosity, kindness, and moral integrity. In many parts of the world, the holiday season, though often tied to specific religious observances, is also a time for universal themes that resonate with people from all walks of life. The figures of Christmas, in their various forms, have become symbols of these larger themes, providing a sense of connection and continuity that extends beyond the confines of any one religion. In non-Christian traditions, the figure of Santa Claus, for example, has often been embraced as a secular symbol of goodwill and festive cheer. In countries where Christianity is not the dominant religion, Santa Claus is often seen as a jolly figure associated with gift-giving and holiday spirit rather than with religious observance. In many parts of Asia, particularly in countries like Japan and South Korea, Christmas has evolved into a largely secular holiday, focused more on celebration than on religious significance. Santa Claus has been adopted as a cultural icon that represents the joy of the season, the magic of the holiday, and the opportunity to share happiness with others. In Japan, for example, Christmas is not a religious holiday, but it has become a time for people to celebrate with family, friends, and loved ones. Santa Claus, in this context, symbolizes the broader cultural desire for happiness, togetherness, and joy. Although Christmas may not have religious roots in Japan, the figure of Santa Claus has become an integral part of the holiday season, representing the spirit of giving and the importance of family and community. People exchange gifts, decorate their homes, and enjoy festive meals, all while embracing the universal message of peace and goodwill that Santa embodies. The figure of Santa Claus also plays an interesting role in countries where Christmas is not traditionally celebrated, but where the secular aspects of the holiday have been embraced due to globalization. In places like China and India, where Christmas is not a national holiday, the figure of Santa has made an appearance in the public sphere, often in the form of commercial advertisements, festive decorations, and even themed events at shopping malls. In these contexts, Santa Claus is seen more as a symbol of cheer, a character associated with joy, celebration, and the festive atmosphere of the season, rather than as a religious figure tied to Christian beliefs. Krampus, on the other hand, represents a different facet of the holiday season and has cultural significance in parts of Europe where Christianity has a strong foothold. While Krampus is primarily associated with Central and Eastern European traditions, particularly in countries like Austria, Germany, and Hungary, the figure of Krampus has transcended its original religious context. Krampus was originally introduced as a figure meant to punish children who misbehave, contrasting with the benevolent Saint Nicholas, who would reward well-behaved children. Over time, however, Krampus has come to symbolize more than just the consequences of misbehavior. In modern, secular interpretations, Krampus is often viewed as a figure who represents the darker, more complicated aspects of the human experience: fear, consequence, and moral accountability. Even in non-Christian cultures, Krampus has found a place as a counterpoint to the over-commercialized, overly cheerful image of Christmas. In recent years, there has been a resurgence of Krampus-themed events, festivals, and media, even in countries like the United States, where Christmas is predominantly a Christian holiday. In places like New York City and Los Angeles, Krampus festivals have sprung up, featuring people dressed as a terrifying creature, engaging in playful mischief, and even offering darkly humorous takes on Christmas traditions. In these contexts, Krampus serves as a reminder of the moral lessons that are often lost in the commercial frenzy of the holiday season. In this sense, Krampus represents a globalized shift toward acknowledging complexities of the holiday, recognizing that the season is not only about joy and giving, but also about personal responsibility, consequences, and the darker side of human nature. Similarly, Grandfather Frost, or Dead Moros, the Slavic counterpart to Santa Claus, carries cultural significance in non-Christian traditions, particularly in Eastern European countries, where his role during the New Year celebrations is of utmost importance. While Grandfather Frost is not a Christian figure in the strict sense, his association with the winter season and his role in bringing gifts to children during the New Year embody the universal human experience of marking the passage of time and celebrating the New Year with hope, renewal, and community. Grandfather Frost's presence in countries like Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus extends beyond religious contexts, as he represents the harshness and beauty of winter, as well as the warmth and spirit of familial love that transcends religious affiliation. In many of these cultures, the New Year's celebration, rather than Christmas itself, is a more significant holiday, and Grandfather Frost's role in these celebrations is less about religious observance and more about the coming together of family and friends. His presence is seen as a sign of new beginnings, hope, and the promise of better days ahead. While Dead Moros' origins may be tied to pre-Christian winter deities, his contemporary role has evolved into one that emphasizes the values of community, togetherness, and the shared joy of a festive holiday season, which resonates strongly with both Christian and non-Christian communities alike. Across different cultures, these Christmas figures also serve as a way of preserving tradition in the face of modernization and globalization. As societies become more connected and consumer-driven, there is a tendency to lose touch with the customs and rituals that once defined the holiday season. However, figures like Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost provide a way of reconnecting with the past, of embracing the values and practices that have been passed down through generations. In non-Christian cultures, the persistence of these figures serves as a reminder of the importance of family, community, and the moral lessons of the holiday season. Whether through the sharing of gifts, the joy of gathering together, or the reflection on the passage of time, these figures help to maintain a sense of cultural continuity even in a rapidly changing world. The global influence of these figures is a testament to the way in which cultural symbols can transcend their original religious or geographical context to take on new meanings and significance. In a globalized world, these figures are no longer confined to their cultural origins. They have evolved to embody the universal themes of love, generosity, and renewal, allowing them to be embraced by people of all faiths and backgrounds. Through their widespread recognition and adoption, figures like Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost remind us of the power of myth and storytelling to create shared experiences that unite us, regardless of our cultural or religious differences. In the end, the cultural significance of Christmas figures in non-Christian traditions underscores the power of these characters to transcend religious boundaries and resonate with people on a deeper, more universal level. Whether they are seen as symbols of joy and goodwill, as figures that embody moral lessons, or as agents of cultural continuity, these figures have become central to the celebration of the holiday season in a variety of cultures around the world. Through their presence, they remind us that the true meaning of the season lies not in religious observance alone, but in the shared values of kindness, generosity, community, and renewal that define the human experience. The role of Christmas figures in modern culture has been profoundly shaped by the development of media over the last century. From the earliest depictions in literature and art to the current ubiquity of Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost in films, television, and digital media, these figures have undergone significant transformations as they have been adapted to fit the shifting tastes and values of contemporary society. Modern media, with its vast reach and influence, has not only amplified the global recognition of these characters, but also redefined their roles in holiday traditions, giving them new layers of meaning while also stripping away some of their historical and cultural context. The evolving portrayal of Christmas figures in media reflects the changes in society itself, from consumerism to commercialization, from nostalgia to rebellion, and from religious observance to secular celebration. One of the most significant ways modern media has impacted the evolution of Christmas figures is through the commercialization of their images. In the early 20th century, Coca-Cola played a pivotal role in cementing the modern image of Santa Claus as the jolly, plump man in a red suit with a white beard. While Santa's origins were rooted in European folklore and Christian traditions, It was Coca-Cola's advertising campaigns in the 1930s that introduced a standardized version of Santa that became instantly recognizable around the world. The image of Santa Claus, as we know him today, with his red and white suit, black boots, and cheery disposition, owes much of its prominence to these early advertisements. Santa, once a figure tied to morality and gift-giving, became a symbol of holiday cheer and consumerism. This commercialization of Santa Claus has continued into the present day, with countless brands and businesses using the image of Santa to sell everything from toys to food to clothing. Santa is not only a figure of myth and tradition, but also an essential tool for marketing during the holiday season. The character's image has been so thoroughly integrated into global advertising that it is almost impossible to imagine Christmas without him. While this has allowed Santa to achieve an unprecedented level of global recognition, it has also raised questions about the ways in which Christmas figures are used to serve commercial interests. As Santa's image is increasingly linked with consumerism, his connection to the deeper, more meaningful aspect of the holiday season can sometimes be overshadowed by the pressure to buy gifts and participate in the holiday shopping frenzy. Alongside the commercialization of Santa Claus, Krampus has also experienced a resurgence in modern media, albeit in a more unconventional and rebellious context. Traditionally, Krampus was seen as a figure who punished naughty children, serving as a counterbalance to the benevolent Saint Nicholas. In recent years, however, Krampus has evolved from a figure of fear and discipline to a symbol of rebellion and dark humor, often embraced by those who seek to subvert the sanitized, overly cheerful version of Christmas popularized by mainstream media. In films like Krampus 2015, Krampus is portrayed not just as a figure who punishes, but as a creature of chaos, pushing against the traditionally prescribed morals of the holiday season. The portrayal of Krampus in media reflects a broader cultural shift towards embracing darker, more complex interpretations of holiday traditions. Krampus has found a particularly strong foothold in alternative subcultures and in countercultural expressions of Christmas. Across Europe and the United States, Krampus parades and festivals have become popular, where people dress up as a terrifying creature, engage in mischievous acts, and celebrate the darker side of the holiday season. These events often playfully mock the more commercialized aspects of Christmas and provide an outlet for people who wish to embrace a more subversive or cynical view of the holiday. Krampus's evolution in modern media and popular culture speaks to a desire to challenge the saccharine, feel-good nature of Christmas that is often portrayed in mainstream media. By embracing Krampus as a figure of rebellion and fun, people are reimagining the holiday as one that acknowledges both the joy and the more uncomfortable emotions that can arise during the festive season. The resurgence of Krampus in modern media also reflects the growing interest in horror and dark fantasy genres, where figures like Krampus are embraced for their ability to evoke fear and thrill. This has led to an explosion of Krampus-themed content in television shows, films, and even video games. Krampus's role as a dark counterpart to the joyful and generous figure of Santa Claus taps into a cultural fascination with the interplay between good and evil, punishment and reward, and the complexities of human nature. This contrast is particularly appealing in an era where many people feel disconnected from traditional, religious-based holiday celebrations and seek alternative ways to engage with the holiday season. Grandfather Frost, or Dead Moros, has also been impacted by modern media, though in different ways. While he remains a prominent figure in Russia and other former Soviet states, Dead Moros' image has evolved in response to the cultural shifts in Eastern Europe after the fall of the Soviet Union. In the past, Grandfather Frost was often associated with state-sponsored New Year's celebrations that were free from religious references, but in recent decades, Dead Moros have become a more flexible figure, one that is celebrated in both secular and religious contexts. Modern media has played a significant role in this transformation, as films, television shows, and advertisements have embraced Dead Moros as a symbol of holiday cheer, bringing him to the forefront of New Year's festivities. In Russia, Dead Moros has been reimagined in contemporary media as a beloved character who is not only part of New Year's traditions, but also a figure of hope and warmth during the winter months. He is often depicted as a kindly figure who travels through snowy landscapes, bringing gifts to children and spreading joy. This image of Dead Moros, as both a benevolent figure and a symbol of winter, has been reinforced by modern media, including children's cartoons, films, and literature. Dead Moros' image has become more closely associated with the familial warmth of the New Year celebrations, emphasizing themes of togetherness, renewal, and the optimism that comes with a fresh start in the new year. Modern media has also contributed to the globalization of Grandfather Frost, as the figure has appeared in various international films and media outlets. In some Western countries, Dead Moros is recognized as the Eastern European counterpart to Santa Claus, and his role in holiday traditions is often depicted alongside Western Christmas characters. This cross-culture exchange of holiday figures has led to a greater awareness of Dead Moros outside of Eastern Europe, allowing him to be embraced by people from different cultural backgrounds. This globalization of Dead Moros has resulted in a blending of traditions, where elements of Eastern and Western Christmas customs are fused together to create a more globalized holiday experience. The portrayal of these Christmas figures in modern media also reflects broader societal trends, including the commercialization of the holiday season, the rise of secularism, and increasing focus on family and community as central themes of the holiday. Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost have all been reinterpreted in ways that align with contemporary cultural values and consumer habits. Whether through the mass-market appeal of Santa's image, the subversive rise of Krampus, or the renewed focus on Dead Moros as a symbol of family and hope, modern media has played a central role in reshaping how we view these figures and how they fit into our understanding of the holiday season. While the commercialization of Christmas figures may detract from some of the deeper meanings of the holiday, it has also allowed these characters to remain relevant and adaptable in an ever-changing world. Modern media has ensured that these figures continue to be present in our lives, whether through films, advertisements, or digital media, helping to maintain the cultural significance of these holiday symbols, while also offering new ways of engaging with them. As media continues to evolve, so too will the figures that populate our Christmas traditions, continuing to reflect the changing values, desires, and complexities of the world around us. The figures associated with Christmas, Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost, have a profound psychological and emotional impact on both children and adults. These characters, through their stories, rituals, and cultural significance, create a unique environment for emotional development, shaping how individuals experience joy, fear, anticipation, and the values of generosity, discipline, and hope. For children, these figures serve as powerful tools for moral education, imagination, and emotional growth, helping them understand the complexities of behavior, reward, and consequence in a fun and often magical context. For adults, the presence of these figures can evoke nostalgia, provide a sense of continuity, and offer an opportunity to reconnect with the innocence and wonder of childhood, while also prompting introspection on their own roles as parents, caretakers, and role models. One of the most immediate and noticeable effects of Christmas figures is the sense of excitement and anticipation they bring to children during the holiday season. For many young children, the belief in Santa Claus or similar figures is an integral part of their childhood experience, often beginning as early as they can comprehend the concept of gift-giving. The figure of Santa Claus represents the ultimate symbol of generosity and magic. As children await his arrival, they experience a sense of wonder and excitement that is unique to this time of year. The anticipation of Santa's visit becomes a cherished part of the holiday season, as children imagine the journey he takes to deliver gifts around the world. The rituals surrounding Santa Claus, such as leaving cookies and milk by the fireplace, writing letters to him, and tracking his journey through the sky, help to build a sense of connection to the magical aspect of the world, reinforcing the belief that kindness and good behavior will be rewarded. For parents and caregivers, participating in these rituals and encouraging the belief in Santa Claus offers a chance to engage with their children in meaningful ways. The act of becoming Santa, whether through setting up a gift-giving ritual, writing back to children in Santa's voice, or hiding presents under the tree, creates a sense of involvement and joy for the adults as well. There is an emotional reciprocity in these traditions, as adults are able to relive the magic of childhood through the eyes of their children, and children experience the excitement of giving and receiving in a way that fosters empathy and gratitude. This shared emotional experience strengthens family bonds, as the act of celebrating the season becomes a deeply personal and meaningful ritual, one that emphasizes togetherness and love. The psychological benefits of Santa Claus go beyond the sense of excitement and wonder. For many children, the idea of Santa Claus also functions as a moral figure, a character who rewards good behavior and punishes bad actions. This dual role of Santa as both a benevolent gift giver and a figure of moral consequence serves as a gentle, playful way of teaching children about the importance of behaving well and the rewards of kindness. The idea that Santa is always watching, keeping track of who is naughty and who is nice, can instill in children a sense of accountability and responsibility. While this concept is often lighthearted and whimsical, it can also serve as a valuable tool for teaching children about the importance of discipline, kindness, and emotional rewards that come from positive actions. This moral framework extends to other Christmas figures, particularly Krampus. While Santa Claus represents reward and encouragement, Krampus is the embodiment of consequence and punishment. The fear that Krampus instills in children may seem intimidating, but also serves as a valuable reminder of the boundaries between good and bad behavior. In countries where Krampus plays a more prominent role in Christmas celebrations, children are taught about moral behavior and the importance of making good choices, albeit through a more fearsome figure. The psychological effect of Krampus is less about fear and more about balance, providing a counterpoint to the overwhelmingly positive image of Christmas figures like Santa Claus. It's a balance that echoes the real-world experiences of reward and consequence, where actions have outcomes, and where positive behavior is recognized and celebrated. For adults, the emotional impact of these figures is often tied to nostalgia, memory, and reflection. The holiday season is a time when many adults reconnect with their own childhoods, and the figures of Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost can serve as conduits for this emotional journey. The act of participating in these traditions allows adults to relive the innocence and wonder of their younger years, evoking memories of their own experiences with Christmas figures and the joy they felt as children. This nostalgia is particularly poignant when parents and grandparents pass down traditions to the younger generation, creating a cycle of emotional continuity that spans multiple generations. The presence of these figures in the lives of adults can spark memories of family gatherings, holiday meals, and a shared sense of anticipation that comes with the Christmas season. Moreover, the figures of Christmas can also provoke deeper emotional responses that transcend mere nostalgia. For many adults, the holidays are a time of introspection, where they reflect on their roles as caregivers, nurturers, and role models. The figure of Santa Claus, with its emphasis on giving and kindness, serves as a reminder of the importance of generosity and selflessness. For parents, the act of playing the role of Santa Claus or facilitating the magic of Christmas for their children can be a profound expression of love, care, and commitment. The emotional weight of these traditions is often felt most acutely by those who are responsible for creating the holiday experience for others, as they seek to instill a sense of wonder and joy in the next generation while navigating their own complex emotions during the season. In a more secular context, the figure of Grandfather Frost also offers emotional and psychological benefits, particularly in regions where he plays a central role in New Year celebrations. In countries like Russia, Grandfather Frost represents the deep emotional and psychological connection to the winter season, offering hope and renewal during the darkest days of the year. For adults, his role as a figure of continuity and tradition can be comforting, symbolizing the resilience required to endure the challenges of life and the warmth of family and community that carries people through difficult times. Grandfather Frost, like Santa Claus, serves as a symbol of familial love and support, and his presence can help adults reconnect with their sense of purpose and emotional fulfillment during the holiday season. The emotional impact of these Christmas figures is not limited to positive feelings of joy and anticipation. For some, the holidays bring feelings of loss, grief, or loneliness, particularly for those who may be estranged from family or who have lost loved ones. The figure of Santa Claus, while typically associated with joy and celebration, can also highlight the absence of loved ones and the sense of longing that often accompanies the season. Similarly, the commercialization of Christmas and the focus on gift-giving can amplify feelings of inadequacy or isolation for those who are struggling financially or emotionally. In these cases, the figures of Christmas may represent more complex emotional terrain, where the contrast between the joy of the holiday and the personal struggles faced by individuals can create a bittersweet or even painful experience. However, these same figures can also provide comfort during times of emotional hardship. The traditions associated with Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost offer opportunity for individuals to find meaning and solace, even in difficult times. Whether it's through the rituals of gift-giving, the sense of community created by shared holiday traditions, or the belief in the magic of the season, these figures serve as reminders of the hope, renewal, and emotional connection that the holiday season offers, even when it feels difficult to experience. Ultimately, the psychological and emotional impact of Christmas figures on both children and adults is profound and multifaceted. These characters, with their rich symbolism and enduring presence, play an important role in shaping how we experience the holiday season, from the excitement of childhood to the reflective moments of adulthood. Whether they are a source of joy, moral guidance, nostalgia, or even sorrow, the figures of Christmas offer an emotional landscape that allows individuals to connect with both their past and their present, helping to create a shared sense of meaning, continuity, and hope across generations. Through their stories, rituals, and symbolic roles, these figures continue to shape how we navigate the holiday season and how we find emotional connection and fulfillment in the most wonderful time of the year. As we immerse ourselves in the joy and warmth of the holiday season, it's easy to overlook the environmental consequences that come with many of the traditions and practices associated with Christmas. The figures of Santa Claus, Krampus, and Grandfather Frost, while symbols of generosity, kindness, and celebration, are also tied to a complex web of consumer habits and environmental impacts. From the transportation of goods to the production of decorations, the creation of gifts, and even the disposal of holiday waste, Christmas traditions, including those surrounding the mythical figures, have a significant environmental footprint. The modern Christmas celebration, with its emphasis on gift-giving, decorations, and mass consumerism, often contributes to environmental degradation. Yet, within the context of these figures, there is an opportunity for reflection and change, as they represent values of sharing, family, and responsibility, values that can be translated into more sustainable practices during the holiday season. The most visible environmental impact of Christmas traditions comes from the increase in consumerism during the holiday season. Christmas, largely driven by the image of Santa Claus and his gift-giving traditions, has become one of the most commercially driven times of the year. The rush to buy gifts, decorations, and food has led to a sharp increase in production, transportation, and waste. Santa Claus, as the emblem of gift-giving, has come to represent the consumer culture that surrounds a holiday. The process of manufacturing, packaging, and distributing the items that fill store shelves around the world has a direct effect on the planet. The environmental cost of these gifts, particularly in terms of carbon emissions, plastic waste, and unsustainable production practices, is often hidden behind the magic and joy of the season. Each year, the global demand for toys, electronics, clothing, and other items increases, leading to a surge in production and a corresponding rise in environmental pollution. The packaging that accompanies these products, plastic, cardboard, and other materials, is often discarded after the holiday season, contributing to the growing problem of waste. According to some studies, an estimated 30% increase in waste is seen in landfills during the weeks following Christmas. While Santa Claus is associated with joy and merriment, the global supply chain that supports the distribution of Christmas gifts often ignores the environmental costs of overproduction and overconsumption. The holiday season thus becomes a time when the planet bears the weight of the demand for material goods.